Welcome to the Eastern Conference Final Preview, Knickerbocker Banter edition. Of course, we had to bring in Pacer Insider, my good friend Kory Waldron. We're back. We talked after Game 3 last year, and they got the best of us. We decided to bring Kory and his insight back to the banter. What's up, brother?
Nothing much, Harris. Happy to do this for the ninth time now in the playoffs.
Unbelievable, right? We were just talking before we came on. This is how people in the 90s must have felt, right? It's 2 years in a row now, and as I explained to people the last couple of days, similar paths in that a lot of people fast forward and thought we're going to get Cavs Boston. We're going to get these top two teams. What was the key to the Pacers being able to go through? And listen, I don't want to hear about the injuries. I know you don't anymore. They beat up Cleveland. And what was the key to that? And why do you think they're playing with so much confidence right now?
I mean, first off, the Pacers' pace. Obviously, they want to get out and run. They're gonna pressure you the whole time. And what they've done a really good job of so far is, I mean, first off, I saw today the true shooting percentage of the Pacers' key rotational players. Everyone is shooting over 60%. So like they're shooting lights out, ridiculous. Like at this point in time, which is already saying enough about the type of looks they're getting. But really, they're just moving the basketball, and there isn't one guy doing it all. They're just finding the right shot. They're taking it. Halliburton is, again, he may not be the type of scorer a guy like Brunson is, but he's just out there picking apart the defense and facilitating.
And he's made all the right plays at the right time. I want to talk about a couple of those comebacks. To me, most notably, what went on in Milwaukee. And it was at home for you guys, but that's what we've kind of experienced on our side. It's like we're never out of a game. We feel good about crunch time. And that 7 or 8 point comeback in like a minute was electric to close out a series against the Bucks.
I mean, they did it 2 times in 3 games, which says enough about how this team, no deficit is safe. With the Pacers, Reggie Miller, to allude to what we'll say probably later on, but another guy, time doesn't matter. But, I mean, the Bucks, obviously that's been a rivalry going on for a while. And the Pacers have just figured out in the last 2 months of the season, month and a half of the season, how to finish in closing time. And against the Bucks, they were able to fight back and claw. And that overtime game is the one with Gary Trent Jr. is going crazy from 3, and you think it's over. And Halliburton himself takes over. Didn't have a jump shot going, but attacked the basket, and you somehow get out of there with a win.
No, cool question. I want to talk about Halliburton for a second because he's an interesting player, to say the least. I mean, he's very talented. He's the head of the snake, as I call him over there. And he likes to taunt a little bit, and that's not saying the Knicks are innocent in that regard because we have our own celebrations too. So I don't take anything away from what he's been able to accomplish, and I like the pep to his step right now too, and he's definitely a threat for sure. But what do you think it is about these moments, and what has allowed him to be successful and stay away from those 5-6 point games that once in a while it happens, and like this guy's too talented to have those happen to him? What has been the key for Halliburton to have the success he's had in the playoffs so far?
I mean, it's really just the Pacers' style of offense and how they're looking for the best shot. No one is ever trying to do too much, more or less. I mean, their offense can definitely get clunky in the half court, which is, of course, when you look at the Knicks and Pacers, the pace is going to be a huge thing. Pacers have one of the fastest paces. The Knicks have one of the slower paces in the league. They're going to be going against each other in terms of style of play. And you want the Pacers in the half court. Halliburton is, of course, just fantastic in the sense of, deciding when he needs to take over. And then, again, having a guy like Nembhard as another guy initiating offense for the Pacers has been a crucial part of this as well because he's been a playoff riser for them. So in the playoffs in particular, Halliburton doesn't have to rely on all the attention on him trying to do something when you have a guy like Nembhard can take the pressure off you.
He's gotten better, Kory Nembhard.
I mean, in the regular season, he's solid. I mean, again, defensively, he's been great all year, but offensively, his game, I mean, he's got the second highest 3-point percentage of any NBA player in history for 3. He's shooting 49% in his career in the playoffs. For whatever reason, certain guys see the lights are brighter and they get hot.
Well, I don't want to think about the one from Game 3 last year, the step back off the offensive rebound, because you came on here after that game last year, and you were even telling me, hey, I was thinking to myself, we might be down 3-0, and then this guy makes this 3, and you go on to win that series. But I love rivalries. This is the first time in the Brunson tenure that the Knicks are having a repeat opponent in the playoffs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you knew it was going to happen eventually, right? You keep
Yeah.
making the second round, you keep making the second round, and then eventually now you get to the over the hump. And there is this, and I want to ask your opinion on it because you guys haven't been to the final since 2000 either. So there is this energy in New York right now that from the outside perspective is like, what are these clowns doing? They haven't won anything yet. But to me, that celebration has a lot more to do with the fact that it's been so hard for so long for people that really love it. Now, listen, there are some 19-year-old kids out there that probably don't even like basketball, that they just want to be on sideline talk and they want to be in front of the viral moment. But there are a lot of people that really, really care about this team. And I know Indiana is a basketball town and Hoosiers and Larry Bird, the history is deep there. That a lot of what's going on here is like, we just want to get to that moment we haven't had in so long. And there is relatability from your end as well. I don't know if anybody's hanging off light posts there, but
Yeah.
I think there's that same type of vibe where it's like, is this going to happen for us? Because it hasn't happened in so long.
Well, and I think as you get older as sport fans too, you just have to cherish these moments, right? I mean, you don't get that many. We talk about title windows. Title windows are really 2 to 4 years. And sometimes you get a little bit lucky if you have a generational talent, but the Knicks are in the heart of their title window.
Yeah.
Pacers, again, when they traded for Pascal Siakam, you knew they were taking a swing. I didn't think they were going to be in the Eastern Conference Finals back-to-back seasons. Obviously, they've had some help or some luck, if you will, with some of the opportunities they've faced. But I think it's great. And again, you being a Knicks fan, basketball is better when the Knicks are good. When the Knicks are good, basketball is better. The city, the fans, you guys, I love seeing the victory videos of sidewalk talk and all that when you guys are off a win. It's electric, and I think everyone should be embracing their team in this final stage. Doesn't mean if you won anything. None of these teams that are left have ever won it all, right? Or like not so pretty much not at all. I mean,
It's for us 50 years. Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
Well, I will say this on behalf of all New York Knicks fans, I think a lot of them feel this way. I don't know what led up to the moment with the kid wearing the Halliburton jersey, but when things go well for my team, it's about my team. I've never been once in a while, if like another fan like says something to me, I'll like playfully talk trash. But it's never been about like when these guys do these F chants and F this and F that, even like an F Reggie Miller, like I don't really think that's much what it's about, in my opinion. Like I want to celebrate our group. I want to celebrate New York. And unfortunately, whatever went on with that, and people are like, oh, he should have known better. Like, there's no excuse for throwing things at anybody. Like, there's no excuse to act like what they did towards Brian Windhorst because, oh, he thought the Celtics were going to come back and win the series. So now we're going to just like berate this guy. Like, it's inexcusable behavior. And I'll never, ever act or contribute to any of the stuff that's going on there. And it does group us in with like the Philadelphias and Boston when they get the bad rap as well, because there's always going to be a couple bad apples. You could have a 90% fans be great, and then that 10% ruin it for people. Even the other night, I'm like, listen, could you imagine what my family would say to you the next day if I was the guy sitting up on the billboard? Like, you could fall off and like, listen, kudos to those people having a good time, whatever you want to do. But like, there are moments where I look around, I'm like, yeah, put the music on, let's scream, but let's try not to lose our lives in the process.
Right.
Yeah. Or there's levels to it. There's levels to it.
No question. Are you looking forward to, I think Siakam and OG will be locked up, but is there anything you look at in this series and you say, if this goes well for Indiana, like from a matchup standpoint, or is it we hold talents to a certain amount? Because I know he's had some success against you guys. Is there anything you specifically think about and say this has to happen or this can't happen for them to be successful?
Yeah, I've been thinking about it obviously since. I've circled you guys in the Eastern Conference Finals since. I kind of had a feeling you guys were going to beat the Celtics, and obviously the Tatum stuff happened. But I had a feeling the Knicks were gonna upset the Celtics. I just wasn't buying after they blew those 2 20-point leads.
Right.
So what I will say about the Knicks in terms of the Pacers and the question you asked is I think it's 2 things: the rebounding, which you guys really dominated in the paint versus Boston. So I think rebounding is going to be a big part of this. Pacers aren't a very good rebounding team. If the Pacers can somehow win those second chance opportunities on the glass, then there's obviously that's the best case scenario. And then I look at bench. Knicks, obviously, with Tom Thibodeau, you guys play starter heavy. You don't go deep into the bench. I know Precious didn't even really play last series. Mitchell Robinson, of course, has been very good for you guys, and Miles McBride has been very impressive. Whereas the Pacers, they go 9 deep and they can go 10 deep. So if the Pacers bench is giving their starters time to get some rest while also keeping leads or keeping deficits at a certain point, I think that bodes well for the Pacers simply because we're going to be pushing the tempo or trying to push the tempo. So if the Knicks starters get run into the ground, I think that's the Pacers' hope at least is to try to run you guys out the gym.
Yeah, and I've seen or we've seen the campaign game versus Detroit, and then he basically, after having a great impact on that win, has been relatively non-existent in the postseason. I personally don't think the series comes down. I've been on the record saying the 8, 9, and 10 guys might not be able to win it for the Knicks. Could they relieve some of those top guys for a few minutes while McConnell and these other guys get up in Brunson's face and make it hard for them for 10 minutes? Sure, but I do think the stars end up dictating what goes on here in your top versus our top. But who's been the most important piece for you guys, or who's played the most important role coming off the bench so far in the postseason, in your opinion?
Man, that's a good question. I mean,
is it Mathurin? Because he wasn't there last year, right?
He wasn't there last year, but Mathurin also got ejected in game 4 versus the Cavs. He didn't really do much in game 5, but Mathurin in this series is to me an X factor because he averages 25 points per game versus the Knicks. And I think the Pacers do benefit for the fact of he is the only guy on the team really who can score in isolation. He's like the one ISO scorer on this team who can just go to work himself.
He's the true 6-man, basically.
Correct. So I think that's a huge part because if he's coming off the bench and scoring buckets, then he also has a little bit of an attitude to him. He's going to be talking crap. So I think Mathurin is probably the person to watch the most off the bench, but I mean, McConnell is still probably the biggest factor because he's going to be hounding Jalen Brunson.
He's
being a pest.
Well, we remember from last year. I mean, he had a couple 20-point games, if I recall, and he's got that little push shot, and he's just a pest. He's annoying, and that is what potentially. I mean, McBride plays that role to an extent for them, but what I thought at the beginning of the playoffs was that campaign, and again, I just mentioned we saw it in game 1. Sometimes you just need a guy out there that is running his mouth a little bit, which you have a few guys that do that, that's not backing down and could be annoying for 7 to 10 minutes. So I don't know if the Knicks are going to go past 7. I mean, you have to see how it plays out. Precious got an opportunity at times in this last series, but I even heard Carlisle. Some people thought that Carlisle was lobbying for the Knicks to play Precious based off what he said. I don't really think I don't really think there's much truth to that. I think he was just talking about guys that, maybe people don't talk about as much, or just praising Robinson for his efforts in the last series.
Well, also, I'm pretty sure in the regular season, Precious had a decent game against us as well, on the glass. So he's probably just referencing past history because you guys did, for the most part, dominate us in the regular season 2-1.
Right.
Pacers did one of those games, but you guys pretty much the first matchup of the year, you guys ran us out of the gym. It was over by halftime.
Right. Well, yeah, and then I think you guys, if I'm mistaken, I know we won one in Indiana by double digits, but then you got one. The other one that you won, I think, was also in Indiana, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Yeah, it was one game in the Garden you guys won, and then 2 in Indiana, and we split those games.
Right. Yeah, and if we've learned anything from these playoffs, I don't know what your regular season records were versus those two teams, but we got to throw all that stuff out the window because I've seen so many instances over the last couple of years where they'll say, "Oh, the Knicks are 3-1 against this team; they lost the series." The Knicks are 1-3, or as we know famously, 0-4 against Boston. They won the series. So you guys have some, as you mentioned the word before, I like it, the expression, playoff risers. I think the Knicks have demonstrated they have a couple of those guys too. And the beatdown that Bridges took over the regular season being in New York because of the 5 first-round picks. And he's elevated himself a little bit. So I'm interested to see how he plays in this series to follow that up, because one of the numbers I saw flashing across Twitter that caught my eye earlier today, 25-4 the Knicks are when he's over 20 points. So, that's clear. That's enough evidence to know that when he's rolling and he has one of those games, the Knicks become a different team.
I mean, I was impressed by both the games Bridges had early on in the series versus the Celtics. I mean, the defensive part of things was, I mean, he gave Tatum a handful.
Yeah.
And then, like to your point, offensively, he's just finally catching the right time. And honestly, if you think about Bridges, he got his reputation on the Suns by what he did in the playoffs. Like he was almost a playoff riser himself. Wasn't necessarily a big regular season guy, but in the playoffs, you knew you had him all. You know, every game he plays, he's an Iron Man. But you knew in the playoffs you were getting a little bit more out of him, and he's done just that for you guys so far.
Definitely. And you know what? And then we'll get to some more Indiana stuff as well. And obviously want to touch on the Reggie Miller color commentary, of course. But when you give up 5 first-round picks, everybody's in their mind is like, all right, this is the numerical value we expect from that, right? This is the production we expect. And now Brunson and Hart obviously had something to do with wanting to bring him over and completing their trio here, although DiVincenzo was a casualty in the whole thing. But they had a lot to do with that, and they trusted the process in terms of what he would be able to do in the postseason. But to get to Miller, and I saw him have some fun today with the New Yorkers. The part of the series that he'll tell you it's the turning point last year when everybody's chanting at him, right? Josh Hart comes over, has some fun with him, and then the Pacers win 4 out of the next 5 after that moment. Did I love the engagement? I mean, I guess at the end of the day, he's having some fun with them, but Reggie Miller is always going to be synonymous with New York. I know, to me, I made the comparison. It's like 20 years from now, the Knicks and Hawks playing in a series and Trae Young doing the color commentary. You know, it's like that is how New Yorkers will always feel about Reggie. But I think, you know, to what I've heard so far in the playoffs, he's been fair and he knows his stuff. And, you know, I wasn't, like I said, around so much during all the torturous moments that he had, and the Knicks got their lick back at times too. But what do you make of him doing the color, and what overall has been your opinion of him in the Pacer community as well?
I mean, Reggie's. We're all talking. I mean, I think among the fan base, if like Tyrese Halliburton was to bring the Pacers to the finals, he's surpassed Reggie Miller as probably the greatest Pacer already.
Right.
So like those kind of conversations are being had. So Reggie is, of course, still the face of this franchise, despite, you know, obviously being gone for almost 20 years now.
Mm-hmm.
Commentary wise, I will say, like, I'm not even a huge Reggie Miller commentary guy, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think a lot of Pacer fans aren't huge on Reggie Miller doing commentary. And that's not because of like Homer bias or anything like that. It's just not my cup of tea, if you will.
Right.
But do I think he's going to be fair? Yeah. I mean, even the games he did last year, I don't think he was unfair. I mean, we had Stephen A. and Spike Lee on the court before Game 7 talking to, and this is kind of what sports has turned into the last 10 years or so. You're allowed to be more of a fan despite being these journalists and media personalities. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's okay to show that you actually enjoy these teams and you have some sort of connection to them.
Well, to me, it kind of fires me up when I see, you know, we know that TNT is going to cover this whole series. Barkley, Shaq, obviously Draymond, Paul Pierce obviously won't be with TNT, but I'm just naming guys that have, they're almost waiting for the Knicks to prove it to them rather than give them credit on the way, which it's one way of going about it. Like, to me, I appreciate the old head, so to speak, or the NBA player that is giving credit and being more positive. I think it was the Big O that someone talked to recently. I saw this clip pop up and he was just like, it's their time. Like, I love this guy. So he's like the exact opposite. I feel like with Shaq is like, I'm going to be a hard ass on these guys and I'm going to wait for them to prove it to me. So there's different ends of the spectrum, and there's some guys that are pro Knicks. There's some people that are going to be anti Knicks. I'm sure, you know, Becky Hammond's comments and other things that have come up along the way, Brunson's and some of these guys look at and like, all right, let's go. We know that the players can be locked in. I know things that have come out that they look at halftime and stuff. I don't know how, you know, true it is to that extent, but you're right. The media game has changed. I've talked to many people on this show about the players now podcasting. It's a different world we live in. Everything is out there. Everybody sees everything.
Yeah, 100%. And talk about like driving factors. I think both of the Pacers and Knicks in their own regards are slept on, right? Obviously, we view our team differently because we watch so much of them, but there has been a lot of Knicks disrespect and Pacers disrespect. We're like accustomed to it being a small market. No one pays attention to us. But both of these teams don't necessarily get the right attention from media personalities, despite, you know, having stars like Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton, Karl-Anthony Towns. Like, there are plenty of star name guys in this series to pay attention to.
Yep. And you know what? I'm going to mention two more media things because they just popped in my head as you were saying that. Like Wally Zerbiak, for instance, we know what happened there, right? It's not, to me, a very professional thing to say. Now, he could say, hey, I think Randall and Brunson have had better years than Halliburton. To me, that's a very appropriate way of saying it. Not like, this guy's a wannabe all-star. I just think that is like the thing you might say in the barbershop or with your friends, like you're on that, well, it was the local coverage, but obviously he had a conversation with Halliburton after that and his dad and all that stuff. And then Stephen A comes out and says, listen, whether you want to debate Halliburton as a superstar or not, that's not really what we're going to do here. But what he's going to say, all right, Brunson is, Halliburton is. In the back of my mind, I'm like, Stephen A, be quiet. Like we're about to play this guy in a series. The last thing I need to do is him hitting these shots at the end of games, pointing over to people. I'm like, I guess, listen, this is their job. This is what they're paid to do. And some to a certain extent, it's become like almost like the WWE in that this is entertainment. This is propaganda. These people are just saying things and they want to get the most attention on themselves as possible.
It's funny you say that. So obviously Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Halliburton both had their WWE moment, funny enough. And then, the players poll that came out, the one that rated Tyrese Halliburton the most overrated player. I mean, thank you to whoever dropped that right before the playoffs. Like perfect timing because to your point, all of these guys just use that type of stuff as ammunition. And you don't need to give them any more of it. But if you are, guys like Brunson, guys like Tyrese Halliburton, those are the two types of animals that thrive off of that type of conversation.
And I think, and that's a great point you made because I talked about that yesterday on a show. It almost like the script writers are scripting right now, right? They have the WWE now; these two are going at it. I think Halliburton, and listen, there's other factors in this series. You could, I'm interested to hear your take on this as well. He's going to have to channel that dog. He's going to me. I don't know what the number of points a game he has to average, but I can't see him having like a B series and the Pacers being all right here. Like, I think he has to play really well. And I think, and listen, he might have a bad game here or there, or just not have an amazing game. But I think the with the edge he's playing with right now, the Knicks are going to have to make sure that they limit him in those streaky areas that I've seen him streak so far in the playoff. And his mentality is the right one right now. He's kind of flipped that switch.
No, I definitely agree that Halliburton's going to have to be more aggressive. Because there's just times where he just isn't looking for his own offense and he's way too passive, and then the Pacers kind of fall out of sync. So definitely Halliburton, I think, has to probably average 20 points per game for the Pacers to really have a true opportunity. Average probably just under 10 assists per game, which is still obviously great. For me personally, like Siakam is probably the guy like for the Pacer end, I think has to be better. He's kind of skated under the radar. Like he hasn't been bad per se, but he's only, I think, had one game over 20 points so far in the playoffs. He's just kind of been around 14, 15 points. So I feel like he's a bigger point of the offense than Halliburton. But to your point, when it's late in games, Siakam's not going to get you a bucket. Or he can, but it's not the type of easy creation, whereas the Halliburton can create some of that. So I'm pretty sure when it came to clutch scoring, it was Brunson and Halliburton were definitely top three in clutch scoring. I'm not sure who the other person was. I'm drawing a blank. But those are the two guys late in games who are going to be going head to head. And hey, battle of the point guards.
Yeah, no question. And listen, the top twos, and I mentioned Towns and how important he's going to be. And Siakam's going to be your two, right? But other guys, you do have other players similar to the Knicks in that, what's his name? We're drawing a blank on him right now. But
Aaron Naismith.
Yeah, Naismith and Turner is really the guy that I want to talk about right now because I don't know what you could tell me how his playoffs been. Again, I've tuned into a few of them. I mean, I've seen him make some clutch shots, but he stretches the floor for them, as you know, better than anybody. And he's been a little bit of a thorn in our side when he gets going from the top of the key, similar to how Towns could get going, trail the break three. That matchup is going to be an interesting one, and I can't wait to see if the Knicks include Robinson with Towns and do the double big lineup. The Celtics would match that. I was thinking to myself, if they have Siakam on the floor with Turner and the Knicks decide to go double big, that could create some issues for us in that from a foot speed standpoint, but Robinson, can hang with guys and Cat can hang with guys. But when the Knicks were doing that double big a lot, I went back and watched it. It was Horford and Porzingis on the court, or it was, Cornette and Horford, or, and when it was a four, maybe he wasn't, with the agility of a Siakam. So I'm interested to see how this chess match between Tibbs and Carlisle. And I do think, not just because the Pacers won the series, but I do think Carlisle outcoached Tibbs at times. I mean, listen, the Knicks were shorthanded. I'm not an excuse maker, though. I watched a lot of these teams lose guys, and you play with who's in front of you and who's on the floor. But I did think Carlisle had the edge in this series last season, and that will obviously be a big factor in this one as well.
Yeah, I mean, Carlisle's had like an up and down reputation with the Pacer fan base, if you will. Some of the rotation stuff he does is questionable at times. So the coaching aspect is going to be interesting. I'm more so interested to see how the rotations play out as this series develops, and who they're going to be leaning on to kind of go towards more. Because I will say, is like you mentioned, Naismith, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets like 3 fouls in the first quarter in one of these games, because he's going to probably be guarding Brunson, and Brunson's going to be, doing what Brunson does, is get into the free throw line. Yeah. And you mentioned Miles Turner. This has been like, as a Miles Turner believer since day one. He's actually the only jersey I have from an active player still right now. He is playing some of the best basketball of his career, point blank, period. The last 2 years since Tyrese Halliburton came in here, he has figured out ways to stretch the floor better than he ever has. So yes, the 3-point threat from him is going to be big. Turner's issue is still kind of rebounding. He's going to provide some blocks per game. He does have good foot movement, but really, Towns, I feel like, is not a bad matchup for Turner, but we saw this year. I mean, Towns had some pretty big games versus the Pacers, both scoring and rebounding. So Turner's going to have every bit of his hands full, but yeah, I mean, offensively, he's key to the Pacers' offense, being able to get out of the paint to give these guys so many driving lanes.
Well, and talking about from a physical standpoint, right? And you talk about your rebounding. There's a couple numbers I always pay attention to with the Knicks, because obviously it really does. It usually is an indicator of how well they're playing. Are they getting more shots than the other team? Are they out rebounding the other team? The 50-50 ball is always important. But is what's his name off the bench, Bryant, and other guys, like, physically enforcing, and are they great? I mean, I saw a couple games where he looked okay, but is he going to be someone that comes in there and tries to, like, bruise people up like a Stewart was for Detroit?
Thomas Bryant definitely is going to be doing that.
Yeah.
He's gonna. I mean, the second unit between him and TJ McConnell, they're trying to just muck it up. Yeah. They wanted to get, just a little bit more physical. Thomas Bryant definitely is probably going to get 2 technicals this series. He already has 2 technicals this playoff run already. So he shows a lot of emotion and definitely gets physical. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of his one of his jobs out there this series, is to get out there and kind of push around bodies. Because again, I do think the Knicks have a large advantage on the glass in terms of rebounding in this series.
Well, yeah, and your guards, I mean, that they're strong dudes, right? Like, they'll get in there and get dirty, but what Hart and some of these other guys are capable of doing. Sometimes even Deuce, and they're just. I mean, to me, it's like you watch these games, and I look back on the numbers afterwards, and I say, well, no wonder why they lost. Look at the rebounding, and look at the possessions, and look at the, so who could create more of those, and who the hungrier team ends up being, usually is a team that comes out on top. But listen, Kory, I always appreciate when you come on here and we talk it up. Maybe at some point during the middle of this intense series, we'll have to do it again. But, I'm wishing you good luck, just because I hate a team. I'll never say I hated you personally. I hate the team. I always respected you and the work you did. I'm so glad that, Nick Fay got a start there with Off the Glass years ago. And like I said, I follow you. I follow your tweets and everything you do basketball wise. So I appreciate all your Pacer insight. I want to wish you luck, but in the back of my mind, you know how badly I want to be in the finals, just like you do as well, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I mean, it's going to be a fun series. So if we do another one, we have to make sure it's got to be 2-2, right? It's got to be at the halfway point, because this is definitely going to be a long series. I don't think this is going to be over any short of 6 games. Probably going to go full 7. But yeah, this is what it's all about. Honestly, if you're a fan of the Knicks, a fan of the Pacers, any of these Final Four teams, enjoy it, because these opportunities really do come few and far between. This is the Pacers' 10th time, and we still don't have a chip. So just embrace it and hope one year that you can go all the way.
Yeah, these are 2 fan bases. It's a great point that you don't have to remind that we don't know when this is coming again. It's you know, with injuries and everything you're seeing going on in the postseason, and in today's day and age with free agency and the way guys are moved and the way players act, and no, we're lucky to have some guys here we love, but you never know. You really never know. And we're grabbing a hold of this. It's why you see the environment the way it is right now. I know how loud Indiana gets and how much they love their team. We are going to see some high intensity, great environments, and I'm excited for these two teams in terms of the rivalry and what's going to happen, and just basketball in general wins, I think. But I would be devastated if we didn't win the series. I'm sure like you would, but I'll try to enjoy it as much as I possibly can without stressing out.
That's all we can do. All we can hope for the best and enjoy it and hold on to the edge of our seats.
Absolutely. Kory, enjoy the rest of your night, man. We'll check back in with you hopefully at some point during the series. Really appreciate you doing this, brother.
Sounds good. Always a pleasure, Harris.
Thank you.